Hey everybody, good morning. My name is Nick Swiatecki. I found that it's customary to put where can you find me on this slide, so I've put I'm at Swiatecki basically everywhere because that's my last name. Luckily there's not a lot of Swiatekkis doing wireless, so that's how you can find me. Today I'm going to be talking about Wi-Fi 7 in 2025. The talk could also be called Nicholas Does Things with Wi-Fi 7 and tells you about it so you don't have to do it yourself. Or, hey, let me show you all the weird things that happens in Wi-Fi 7 before you kind of run into it yourselves. Now, day job, I know Keith says don't give them their life story. And I won't, I promise. Day job, I'm a product manager at Cisco. I do APs, and APs. I tend to dabble in a lot of protocol stuff, a lot of radio stuff. But before we kind of dive into the content, I do want to kind of give one shout out. Last year was my first WLPC. I was sat in the back of the room and I heard Keith saying, hey, you know what? If you want to present, if you think you have something to share, go submit it. I did, and you guys voted for me, so thank you very much. And I also want to thank Steve Rodriguez personally for coming up to me before. It's like, psst, psst. Just no pressure, but you're after both Jim Florek and Peter McKinsey, so yeah, good luck. Yeah, no shock. Anyways, so what's this talk? This talk is going to be a little bit about APs for Wi-Fi 7. It's going to be a lot about clients and operating systems. We're going to talk about security, and I'm sure Steve is somewhere in the room here, and he's going to shout yes or no at me. And yeah, we're actually going to give out a few free Wi-Fi 7 APs, because hey, why not? In short, this is kind of the talk I would want to hear if I was doing a Wi-Fi 7 proof of concept today, or if I was just getting started on a deployment. And finally, with everything WLPC, communities like this, if you see something you don't agree with, let me know. Tweet, X at me, share your observations. It's the only way we can kind of learn as a community. Cool. So Wi-Fi 7 APs. Well, I basically have 3 slides on APs, and one of them is this. They're available from every vendor out there, as far as I can tell. You can get Wi-Fi Alliance 7 certified from the vendors on screen here. I happen to pick 5 random access points as examples here. Yeah, just a few wide access points, including the new wall-plate AP. If anybody wants to come see it, I brought it with me along with the 9172i, the little 2x2 AP. Of course, with everything APs, go check the list of certified devices, right? Wi-Fi Alliance does a great job. There's Interop Labs. This does ensure your first level of are these access points playing nicely with others. I'm going to do a little bit of a kind of recap of some of the stuff I did in Prague, also called the previous episode of Nick Does Things with Wi-Fi 7. In that talk, I went kind of into depth with the different types of MLO, so I'm not going to regurgitate that here, because that could be its own long talk. I will recap how you can determine how MLO-y an access point is, because that is quite interesting. Also, we did kind of call out last time that some vendors are selling Wi-Fi 7 APs, not doing MLO, multi-link operation. I have coined this term to call it Wi-Fi or Diet Wi-Fi 7. If you don't do MLO, you're not a Wi-Fi 7 AP. Fight me. But, and as Peter just kind of looked into, you can also determine what kind of MLO clients can do by looking at association requests, and we're going to do that here as well. And also, Samsung has some kick-ass tools for looking at Wi-Fi 7, so go watch that talk. There's a lot of good information. So the 2 slides that I will kind of recap from that is how MLO-y is an AP. Well, it's right there in the element. It's the kind of definition from the spec. The short version is, if I'm an access point and I can do MLO on 3 links, I'll set a certain value to 2, because we start counting at 0, and that's how you can tell how many links of MLO an AP can do. And what does that look like? I'm not in recovery like Peter, so I can't really drive Wireshark live, so I'm going to do this with screenshots. There's 3 elements you really care about in Wi-Fi 7, right? You want to care about the multi-link element. Hey, what can I do about MLO? And it's the EHT capabilities and EHT operation. Now, just keep these 3 kind of elements in mind, because we're going to be looking at those when we talk about clients as well. So, multi-link, can I do MLO? If you don't do multi-link, you're not doing Wi-Fi 7. And then the capabilities and the operation. keep in mind, as I kind of mentioned, all this multi-link information is not in EHT capabilities. Even myself doing this talk got fooled a few times whilst building this talk, so keep this in mind. Okay, so let's talk about clients, because we can't live without them, right? Now, a question I get asked a lot is, so how do we know if a client actually supports Wi-Fi 7, right? Sure, look at the datasheet, but datasheet lies. The other question I get asked is, Nick, help me justify or figure out where should I actually start deploying Wi-Fi 7 in my organization, right? If you have a large estate, multiple buildings, multiple sites, it might make sense to deploy Wi-Fi 7 where you have Wi-Fi 7 clients, right? In higher ed, it might be new MacBooks coming in. It might be places where people are buying iPhones that, that are Wi-Fi 7 capable. So let's find out. What you can do, look in the multi-link element. This is in associations and probe requests. The client will say, hey, I can do one of the flavors of MLO, and you can expand this element and see what it's doing. But that got me thinking. This is really easy if you have a Wi-Fi 7 AP. But will clients tell you if you're not doing Wi-Fi 7? What if you are, a university, you have a large estate, and you have APs out there, and you just want to figure out what's going on? So I kind of went into a little bit of a rat hole. I want to thank my wife for letting me occupy the dining room table with devices. Let's test it, and highly encourage anybody to go test what they can. Everything I'm sharing here is, publicly available if you have the devices, right? So I started off with a Qualcomm laptop. Well, this is technically it's an Intel laptop with a Qualcomm Wi-Fi chip. Got to be clear here. And if you connect to a Wi-Fi 7 AP, yep, you see, hey, here's my multi-link element, and here are my EHT capabilities. Great, I'm a Wi-Fi 7 client connecting to a Wi-Fi 7 AP. This is what we would expect. Okay, what if I'm a Wi-Fi 7 client and I connect to a 6E AP? Nope. To steal Peter's analogy about dating profiles, we withhold information here. So that's one client. Okay, what about an iPhone? So same test. Here I'm using Meraki's cloud packet capture because I am lazy and this is really awesome. Something interesting. If you take a Wi-Fi 7 iPhone and you connect to a 6E AP, it will actually say, hey, psst, I can do Wi-Fi 7, even though the AP is not a Wi-Fi 7 AP. So I repeated this test a few times over, and, well, as of somewhere between Friday and Saturday, with these driver versions, this is what I found. If you have a Pixel 9 or an iPhone, they will actually tell you that they support Wi-Fi 7 even if they're all associating to older infrastructure. Now, in Jim's talk a few seconds ago, and for those of you watching the recordings, that's Peter McKinsey and Jim Florrick's talks I was referring to, Jim said that at Cisco Live we saw, 5 to 7% Wi-Fi 7 clients. As far as I can tell, and that's actually why I started looking into this, that excludes any Intel BE laptops, right? So if you're not on a Wi-Fi 7 AP, you won't figure out if it's a Wi-Fi 7 client. So keep this in mind when you're building your reports, figuring out how capable your clients are out there. If you're just looking at over the air, you may not see it. Now there are, other sneaky ways out there to determine what a client can do. We can use heuristics, we can look at data sheets, we can correlate information, but if you're purely looking over the air, you might actually have more Wi-Fi 7 clients than you think. I don't know about you, but I found this pretty interesting. Random bonus tip that I felt like I needed to include. If you're doing testing with Qualcomm Wi-Fi chipsets, and I hope there's nobody from Qualcomm in here, I couldn't find new drivers, and I went down a Google rabbit hole, and somebody was like, I have the same problem. Go to the Microsoft Update catalog, search for Fast Connect 7800. You can actually pull the latest driver versions. I found driver versions that were like 3 months newer than what Windows Update was giving me on my laptop. If you are playing around with bleeding edge stuff like this, just a really cool tip. You need to do some command line foo to extract the drivers, but thought it was worth sharing here. Okay, my next thought was I love WLAN Pi, support it. Let's use the profiler. Fired up Wi-Fi Explorer Pro, and I saw that the profiler did indeed do BE, as I circled in the little pink circle up here. A little bit of foreshadowing here, or kind of revealing. I forgot to look at security types or those 3 elements and check if I was actually doing Wi-Fi or diode Wi-Fi 7. I just saw BE and I was like, great. Now, this didn't really work. I didn't get the results I wanted, so I thought, okay, let's go implement this. Like, I know how to code, let me contribute. Random bonus tip 2. If you're opening code base you've never seen before, and let's be honest, more and more of us wireless professionals are asked to look at code, to write scripts. There's an AI tool called Cursor out there, which is, for those of you who know Visual Studio, it's Visual Studio on crack. You can just ask it. So where's EHT elements sent out? And it actually answered me at the bottom, right here, but it's commented out. I was like, wait, what? So I can just remove the comment and I get full multi-link operation on WLAN Pi? No, unfortunately not. I later contacted Josh, and WLAN Pi and the profiler has to implement full WPA3 security to do multi-link operation. I just saw that the WPA3 supplicant has been implemented, so maybe that's something coming, but it's not an easy lift. And this is a perfect segue into what I call the Stephen Orr segment. But first, for those of you who are fast, for the next 20 seconds, grab a snap of this QR code. We'll be handing out some free APs. Let's be honest, you're all not going to get one, but we'll pick a few of you at random. Please use your work address. You know the drill. So why are we going to talk about security? Why do I have a photo of Stephen Orr in my deck? There are many questions here. I don't really consider myself a security guy. I am lazy, so I tend to go with the least amount of security that is needed. But when we're talking about Wi-Fi 7, when we're talking about 6 gigahertz, and a few of you know this, if you want to use 6 gig, you need to go to WPA3. If you want to use MLO, you need one common AKM across all the links. So if you're doing 2.4, if you're doing 5, if you're doing 6, you need one common security type across all of them. And if one of those is WPA3 because it's 6 gig, well, it kind of boils down to get on with WPA3, or if not, you're going to be stuck without 6 gig, you're going to be stuck without any useful form of MLO. I put a big yellow exclamation mark there, so there's no doubt how I feel about this, right? This is important. Start planning now. Start looking at your networks, figuring out how do you get to WPA3. Now, a quick summary of the small but very important changes between Wi-Fi 6E and Wi-Fi 7. In Wi-Fi 6E, we're told if you want to use 6 gig, Francois, no, you must turn on WPA3. And that was with SAE, and we all have heard about SAE. There's numerous talks, and this was kind of represented under AKM 8, right? And different authentication and key method exchanges, or AKM 9 if you're doing fast transition. Great. Now, if you want to do Wi-Fi 7, and I figured out a lot of people actually don't know this, you must do SAE with a slightly different flavor that is AKM 24 and 25. So if you're looking at your SSID now, you're stacking AKMs on AKMs on AKMs on AKMs. Now, to be Wi-Fi 7 certified, you must do all of this. But once you're looking at your packet captures as you're deploying, this is the level your network has to get to have any meaningful Wi-Fi 7. If you don't do this, you won't get MLO. The client shouldn't associate, done. So be aware that when we say SAE for Wi-Fi 7, it's not just, the old SAE. Now, behind the scenes, cryptographically, they are very similar. But you have to do AKM 24, 25 to do 7. Open up, packet capture, see if your network is doing this. If not, we're doing diet Wi-Fi 7. So then I was thinking, okay, what does this mean for roaming? What does this mean for older APs? What does this mean for integrating a Wi-Fi 6E network? Or heck, you could run WPA3 on, Wi-Fi 5 and Wi-Fi 7 networks. So I thought to myself, what if I take an iPhone 16 Pro, I give it the old SAE 8 and 9, but I give it the new pairwise ciphers, GCNP 256. And maybe not that surprisingly, clients do associate on the highest level of security available to them. Great. So here's my proposal. Let's see if we can make roaming a lot easier between, let's say, cross-generational Wi-Fi 6E to 7. Go to your existing 6E APs and see if they support 24 and 25 today. Because if they do, and if we can get to a state where as many clients as possible associate on, let's say, AKM 25, which is fast transition, it's the best security out there, then roaming between a Wi-Fi 7 AP and a 6E AP should be seamless. Now, I do truly mean that bullet of let me know how it goes. I want to hear how this works across different clients, across different vendors. Truly, I think this is where we have to go if we're talking pre-shared keys in Wi-Fi 7. Oh yeah, so take those AKMs you know from Wi-Fi 7, put them on your 6E networks. Let's see what happens. Or, and I put it in comment here, you could just use .1x all the way and a lot of these problems disappear. It makes your life a lot easier. So just push .1x everywhere and you don't have to worry about this. Oh yeah, the simple version of that slide is, and this is for you Meraki dashboard users out there, click 2 checkboxes and you're done. There's a little advanced WPA3 settings box that pops up now, and you hit those 2 checkboxes, and that slide before condenses into that. Okay. Transition mode. And I hope there's nobody here with rotten tomatoes. Personal opinion, if you must, right? I got one guy clapping at me, so that's great. More and more vendors, including the one I work for, have support for transition mode when you're doing PSK networks. If you have cameras that must be on that network and you don't want to add any other SSIDs, this is an option, right? More transition mode. I'm just going to gloss over this. Honestly, just use OWE. Get rid of open systems. If you want MLO, if you want 6 gigahertz, you have to do OWE. It's as simple as that. Start moving networks. Oh, do I dare go WPA3? I have shamelessly stolen this slide from a presentation last week from Cisco Live. So this is Cisco Live Europe. I know they're going to do separate talks on this, so I won't steal all the thunder. But TLDR, out of 15,000 clients, the main SSID was WPA3 SAE. 8,500 clients connected, no problems. 4.7K clients were open roaming. So, you know, open roaming also solves a lot of these issues because, hey, open roaming is 1x under the hood. All this AKM talk just reduces down to turn on 1x. And there was a legacy network with about 1,000 clients doing WPA2 because, you know, it's a conference. There's a bunch of stuff out there. So I presented this slide in Prague. It's like, okay, what's the overview of the clients? Can I do Wi-Fi 7 today? Going from right to left, macOS, nope. iPhone, really well. Android, pretty good, right? The major kind of Android devices out there, your Samsungs, your Pixels, it works brilliantly. And I might have claimed that, you know, Windows 11, you are good as long as you're running 24H2. I was wrong. I will do what I call a Jim Palmer and show up and say I was wrong, and I'll own up to it. Because there is one kind of elephant in the room, and it's, oh yes, everybody's doing AI-generated photos in these talks. So I see your AI-generated photos, I up it with AI-generated video. Let's see what comes next. Ooh. In current Windows 11, you can connect to Wi-Fi 7. It will work. But if you're doing .1x, you will not get MLO. I guess maybe, I don't know, 5–10% people in the room know this. Like, you will connect. It will tell you it's Wi-Fi 7, all good. If your CIO asks, yes, you're absolutely doing Wi-Fi 7. But you won't see MLO. Just keep this in mind. It stumped me a few times when I did the presentation in Prague in the fall. I honestly didn't know this because I'm lazy and I wasn't running 1x at home. So how do you find out if the Windows version you have in front of you supports this? Good old netsh, run the command in the top corner of the screen. It will give you this output, and it will tell you Wi-Fi 7 Enterprise is not supported. It's a little kind of hidden that that's what that means, but that's what you can do. Now, good news is it is coming. I pulled the latest dev branch of Windows 11. Again, this is publicly available. This is not some special Cisco, NDA sauce. You can just sign up for the dev channel of Windows 11. You run the same command, Wi-Fi 7 Enterprise, fully supported. If you don't believe me, have a look here. It associates on 2 links. So just be aware, when you're doing this testing, you got your new fancy laptop, you read online that Windows 11 24H2 has Wi-Fi 7 and MLO support. It does, but you want to be on a little newer version if you want to do .1x. So what about other clients? Well, good news is, and real big shout out to Apple, it just works. My client associated across all 3 bands doing .1x, everything worked beautifully. You can see it on Meraki dashboard, you can see it on a controller, it will show the amount of links, everything works great. I also creatively borrowed this slide from my good friend and TME Anand, who did this presentation at Cisco Live last week. He did an entire session on deep diving onto MLO. I think it's 90 minutes. The recording is probably going to be online soon. That's how you find it. But there's this beefy matrix of all the different security types, what's supported across different versions. Internally, we have an even more beefy version, and last I counted, it was 40 rows down of different combinations of AKMs. But the gist of it is pretty well supported. The big one is Windows and 1X. That's kind of not ready yet. Finally, testing can be scary. I was sitting a dark evening in my apartment on the purest of pure Wi-Fi networks you can be on. WPA3, 11BE. I'm on a new iPhone with the latest OS. And I see this. Hey, you have weak security. And the first thing I thought to myself was, come on, Apple. Just because I'm not running 192-bit, what's going on here? But it got worse. Now, I've only seen this once. I think it's a UI bug, but my iPhone told me that I was running WEP. I don't know what it is. I did verify with the debug profile. It was all just fun and games. We are running WPA3 underneath. But I did want to kind of share this last kind of fun bit of going down the rabbit hole of Wi-Fi 7. What's out there? What's the state right now? I would love to see if you guys see the WEP thing too. Can't reproduce. So, in summary, what's the state of Wi-Fi 7 in 2025? Well, it's here. It's kicking. You can operate it. You can run it. APIs are there. Clients are there. That little Windows thing, keep that in mind. Start looking at your 6E SSIDs. See if you can pull some of that security forward into your 6E SSID so we get better roams between. Get your hands dirty. Pay attention to the details. I learned a bunch of stuff trying to set up these things, try to test it. I would encourage everybody to do it. And I think this last thing is maybe the most important thing. Security across your SSIDs is probably going to be the biggest challenge in deploying Wi-Fi 7. Not necessarily the client OS or the access points. Yeah, and with that and a whole 60 seconds more for your coffee break, thank you very much.